Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rec Poker Podcast Strategy Edition. I am your guest host for tonight, Rob Gardner. Our faithful Jim Reed is out on the live felt, beating up on some people in Montreal tonight. And I am super, super pumped because one, I have a hot toddy. It's hot toddy season for all of you weird people that don't drink hot toddies. One of the greatest drinks out there. It's apple cider and Fireball. Two, I'm joined by three amazing guys here north of the 41st latitude. We've got Chris Jones, who is an expert in literally everything on the planet. Has been kicking butt behind the scenes on our brand new platform. We can't wait to roll out to you here in the next 4 to 6 weeks. We've got the Wrecking Crew member, content creator, streamer, the one and only Ben BJam and Enslow joining us tonight. And fresh off a championship trophy in the FEC, we got one Taylor Jinch Maas in the house. Buddy, we'll start with you, man. Tell us about this big score yesterday.
So Fall Poker Classic at Canterbury. So we're sponsored by Running Aces. Running Aces is fantastic, but there's another casino in Minnesota, and they've been running a Fall Poker Classic. It's summer camp for the WSOP. This is fall camp for us Minnesotans. Ton of poker, and they had event number 5, the $300 super stack. 278 entrants, something like that. And we shipped the thing last night. Kind of at the final table, just went coast to coast and took home a trophy and $15K.
Very nice. Now, how big is that trophy case now?
So we got 2 live trophies, both from Canterbury. So we got them right next to each other.
Very nice. That's bigger than mine. I have a trophy, and I don't even have it on a trophy case. It's sitting on top of my computer, which is probably really bad for my computer because it's blocking some fans and everything else. But it is what it is. As you mentioned, our podcast here is sponsored by the one and only Running Aces. Make sure you check them out, runningaces.com. I believe we have another Rec Poker weekend coming up in January. We'll probably have some details on that next month, so stay tuned. I've gotten to go to the last 2. It's an absolute blast out there. The staff is great. The venue is fantastic. And you get to play with all of these wonderful people from Rec Poker who come out for the weekend. Meet new people every time. So definitely check them out. We appreciate them being the official sponsors of the Rec Poker Strategy Pod. All right, we're going to get right into it tonight. And we're going to talk about 2 different hands I played in the Pennsylvania Run Good. Going on 3 weeks ago now. It feels like 6 years. And I'm just going to preface this by saying a couple things. I'm going to give you guys a couple disclaimers. First, I am competing for Player of the Year. And the way that the scoring works in Player of the Year, min caches are worth a lot of points for the leaderboard. 2 min caches basically comes out to 1 win in a small field event. So I have some extra ICM implications because of my personal goals that'll play into this hand a little bit, and we'll talk about that when we get into it a little bit later. And similar to the previous edition, if you haven't checked out, go check out the strategy edition we did 2 weeks ago. I have a feeling there's going to be some spicy takes on how these hands went down. So we're going to get right into it here. The first hand, I'm going to set the stage for you guys.
Before we get in, has there been any fallout, Rob? Have people had, burning pitchforks at your front door about?
Well, I will say episode? This. The people who said that they were going to leave and never come back if I folded the aces have come back. So there were some maybe empty threats in there.
Empty threats. Okay. I heard a lot of questioning of the head coach and folding pocket aces in that spot. And I was just curious if you got that too, because I'm not folding aces there, but
look, I am not Bill Belichick yet, and I am not James Franklin. So the seat might be a little warm, but we're still in the captain's chair. Okay. So this is going to be really interesting because our first hand is against a villain that some of you will recognize, but I'll let you know in case you haven't. Nick Rigby. Rigby is famous for going deep in the 2021 World Series of Poker main event. He finished 52nd. He also had a nice run where he was chip leader at the end of day one in 2023. Got famous for winning with the Dirty Diaper, aka Deuce 3 offsuit. And he's a very, very aggressive player. At this point, I had never played with him. I was aware of who he was. I knew who he was. I had a decent idea of how he played. And we're playing in a one-day tournament. It's the first tournament of the Pennsylvania Run Good Series. We're down to the final 18, and 8 are going to pay, and he gets moved to my table. So I'm in the 9 seat. He's in the 7 seat. He's 2 to my right. Big blind is 4,000, and I'm sitting on like 132K. So like 43 bigs. First 3 hands. Okay, this is fun. Very first hand, he opens to 12.5K, so just over 3 big blinds from the button. I'm in the big blind. I had trash. I folded. Very next hand, he's in the cutoff. Folds to him. He opens to 13.5K, so clicks it up a little bit. I was in the small blind with trash. I folded again. Now he's in the hijack. I'm in the button. He decides to min open now. So we went 3 tiny X, 3.3x, and then min opens the hijack, and I look down the button at King of Diamonds, Queen of Diamonds. Now I have 132K for 43 bigs. He's got 155K. The small blind has 160K for 40 bigs, and the big blind has 85K, and the small blind and big blind are both casual players. So I want to start here because I think this is one of 2 points I think we're going to have some controversy. I'm curious about this. I want to start here with what your guys' thought processes are. And since we've got Ben here joining us as our guest wrecking crew member, let's just throw him in the fire right now. Ben, what are you doing in this spot?
Man, I've played around with this hand a little bit. I love King Queen suited. This is like one of my favorite hands. And the fact that you're on the button here is like, oh, like perfect. Like I just love this spot. The only thing is Nick Rigby. Like, what are we gonna see here? You know, if we're gonna put more money in this pot potentially. I don't know. I like a call here, and see what the blinds do. We're gonna be in position, and then yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. What do you guys think?
Chris Jones?
I typically this is a really great hand for a flat. I think it's a suited. It plays really well. We avoid running into some kind of monsters which can dominate King Queen. However, against this opponent in this spot with position, I am 3-betting this a ton. And I like a 3-bet in this spot. And I'm going to respond to a 4-bet. I'm probably never folding to a 4-bet in this spot.
So let me ask you a quick question there, and let me also correct something I said earlier. We have 33 big blinds here, not 43. Math is hard. Do you have any 30 to 35 big blind shoves in this spot, Chris?
I would if I was out of position. I don't think I would in position.
All right, so we've got a tie here, Taylor. Why don't you break the tie? What are you doing in this spot?
Well, I need to know a key piece of information from Chris. What size is he using if he 3-bets?
That is a very key piece of information.
And he this is a min open, right?
Yes.
Is that what we're dealing with? Yeah, I like it. I like a pretty small 3-bet here. I'm probably going to 5.5, 6 big blinds, something like that.
Sort of like 22 big or 22K at the 4K level.
Yeah.
All right. That's exactly what I was thinking. I like a small 3-bet here. Part of it is like if someone's going to continuously open. I mean, I just kind of went on a run last night, and there was a guy who was taking advantage of people that were folding too many big blinds. They were opening a lot. That's probably what Rigby's doing here. He knows the easy way of accumulating chips is just kind of scooping the blinds and antes. I think we have to have some 3-bets in us, and probably looser 3-bets than we would usually. So if we're going to loosen up our 3-betting range, we got to have something like King Queen suited that previously would have been like a call as like a call for value because it kind of falls in the middle-ish part of the range and then plays well post flop. If we're expanding that out, like we got to include some better hands in there as 3-bets too. So like to me, king queen suited is an obvious 3-bet here. I like it to a small sizing. I think sizing is super critical here. If we go big, I think we're just going to let him off the hook a bunch with a lot of his like really weak opens. But there's this player type that hates seeing a small 3-bet and literally has to call like with everything within their range. And then we just kind of get to play in position versus them with a superior range in a great spot for us. It just kind of sets the stage for us to play this hand well post flop.
What are you guys doing if he piles?
Like all in?
Yeah.
Like, do we think that's an option for him to just pile all in?
I don't think he has a non all in 4-bet size. I
And I
think
was
his
wa-
4-bet size is jam or call. Like, but I don't think he's not all inning. What were you gonna say, Ben?
I'm still thinking about like the 2 previous raises before where he went really big, and now we're seeing this min click. I still have that in my head. Like that kind of makes me think back to why was he raising so big, and now all of a sudden we're just min clicking it. Is kind of where I'm at.
So I know the answer to that now after having played with him a ton, but I did not know that answer at this time.
Yeah, I don't know, right?
So we'll assume for the sake of this conversation that there's no information to be gained there other than just we know he has different sizings. But it is something that you want to pay attention to. Maybe I'll spoil it at the very end.
Can I just add before you give anything else? I can't fold to this player for 30 big blinds with a 4-bet jam. I just can't. Not with this hand. This hand's too strong. This player's too erratic, too capable. They can have deuce 3. They can have jack 7. They can have. I've seen this even in the main event when you would do this less. I've seen this player capable of doing this. So I'm never folding this if they jam.
Likewise, in the tournament situation, I think is an all right one for you to kind of take that gamble in a spot where you think you could kind of have your opponent overplaying hands. 18 left, 8 pay, like that's the like we're getting towards the end of you could make a move type of situation. You know, if we're talking 14 left and 8 pay, 13 left and 8 pay, 12 left, whatever. Like now it's like, okay, now you're risking your min cash to like go after him and try and have this, fight over bravado of who's really the stronger one. So yeah, I think this is an all right spot for us in the tournament structure for us to get it in with king queen suited versus this opponent. So
it's interesting. I would say in this situation, I have all 3 moves. Well, not this exact situation, but in this spot, in specific situations, I have all 3 moves. So I like your reasoning, Chris, for not jamming here specifically. If ICM, Chip EV, Player of the Year, literally none of that mattered, I probably would just shove this here. And it's close. And the reason I would shove here is just because when he's opening this wide and we shove a linear range here, we just print. There's just no way for him to call even remotely close to what he would need to call to stop us from making money. And when he does call, we're still going to be doing decent against his range. Obviously, we can run into ace king, but there's a non-zero chance that he just folds some of his like ace queen type stuff. We're going to be flipping a lot of the time versus, 9s, 10s, jacks. He might call down as far as 6s or 5s, but he's just going to have so much crap that he's going to fold that we're just going to win a nice pot here a decent amount of the time. But I can't fault the idea of the downside of shoving is we do like maybe he folds king jack, king 10, king 9, like hands where we can give him reverse implied odds. But I don't personally, and this may be a leak on my part, I really don't like having to 3-bet and call off. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. I just would much rather be in the spot where I don't have to guess how wide his 4-bet shove is and how good my hand is against that. And so for that reason, I would lean towards, if I'm going to call the 4-bet shove, I'd rather just jam. I definitely like 3-betting here a lot versus players whose 4-bets only are stronger, where if I 3-bet and I have to fold, I'm just super confident I'm crushed. So against some of your more passive players, some of your more casual players, this is a great 3-bet spot for me. I elected to flat here. And maybe to Taylor's point, a little too soon. I think we were actually 17 left at this point. Because I was like 4 out of 17. The field looked pretty soft. And I didn't want to get into a pissing match with him. Like, I felt like he's very much the kind of player that just doesn't give a crap. Like, he'll go out 11th, he'll go out 10th, he'll bubble. Like, he wants a big stack. And I didn't want to get into an unnecessarily high variance spot. When the table's soft, I've got a healthy stack. Like, there's other places I can find that are better. I also kind of generally, when I get in these spots and there is like 1 or 2 good players at the table, I kind of prefer to take these spots a little bit multi-way because it makes the overall player, like, it gives more opportunity for players to be in the hand that can make mistakes. So if I call here and the blinds come along and they're casual players, now I'm up against Rigby and 2 casual players. You know, if I hit a really strong hand, it's more likely I'm going to get paid off. I do have a hand that plays really good multi-way. So right or wrong, and it's close. I think you can make arguments anyway, but just because, again, like of the player of the year and all that stuff, I lean towards flatting. So I call here. Small blind calls, big blind calls. So we get the 4-way pot. Again, I have king of diamonds, queen of diamonds. Pot is 44K, so 11 bigs. And the flop comes queen of hearts, jack of diamonds, 3 of clubs. So we flop top pair, second kicker with a backdoor straight draw and a backdoor flush draw. Small blind checks, big blind checks, Rigby checks. It's on us. We'll go in reverse order this time. Taylor Maas, what do you want to do on this flop?
I'm all right with either check or bet small. I think it's a mistake to bet big. I think a lot of recreational players in experience, you see them bet big here because they're like, oh, I've got a queen and I'm really worried and I don't want to see an ace come and I must bet big and deny anyone. And it's like, well, you kind of want to get paid by worse hands, and when you bet huge, it doesn't really work that way. But I don't think check is that bad of an option, and honestly, it was my first gut reaction here. Just because you want to kind of be able to get value out of other players and kind of see where they're at, and we're going to have position the rest of this way. It might be a flawed way of thinking about it, but this is very unlikely to be a spot where we get 3 streets of value. And therefore, not betting here is just giving up on one of those streets. We just have to be willing to go after a turn and river when we feel confident about it in those spots. I also think when we go turn and river, looks a little bit less like value to our opponents, potentially more bluffy, and then we can get called down a little bit lighter than we would if we were to bet initially on this flop here. And really, we're only worried about, I guess we're worried about an ace, maybe like a 10 for a straight, or, you know, some other like straight combos. We can be worried about it. But if we check here, we can always just kind of react effectively on the turn and river. So I guess I'm going check.
Okay. What about you, Chris Jones?
I think in theory, we should be almost always betting this in a multi-way spot since we're in position. And I think against 2 recreationals and a sort of wild card who can just get really frisky, I kind of like a small bet. I like a small bet because those 2 sort of less experienced players are going to react very face up to that bet. And I really don't mind getting heads up with Rigby. I've got a very strong holding. Again, if I wasn't folding pre-flop, I'm not folding if he raises here. And I'm going to learn a lot by betting here. I think I'm going to learn more by betting than I am by checking. And I don't want to, if I get raised by the 2 players in the blinds, that's a really dicey situation that I'm going to have to figure out that's the risk of betting here, I think. But I still like a really small bet here.
Okay. Ben Enslow.
Yeah, I like I like Taylor's point about you're probably not going to get 3 streets here, but I like getting the streets earlier like Chris, so I still lean towards a smaller bet for like the same reasons that kind of Chris talked about, but I'm with Taylor as well where you're not going to get 3 streets, so depending on the turn card, you could decide, okay, I might go for river value or I might go for turn value depending on what comes off on the turn. So I think that's where I'm at. But I'm definitely in the like 33%, small sizing.
Yeah, check is intriguing. I don't know that I considered it in game. I ended up betting 18K, which is small-ish. It's like closer to like 35 to 40%, which is probably a little bit more meaty. But I felt like I could thin the field and also at that sizing kind of get a pretty good feel for where I'm at just based on how long people thought about their call, right? In multi-way pots, you can kind of get some additional information about whether they take some time to think about it or they just flick the chips in. Especially because when they have really strong hands, generally they're going to at least think about raising when we have kind of a dynamic board like this. So we go 18K. The small blind calls, the big blind folds, and Rigby calls. So now there's 98K in the pot, 24 and a half bigs. The turn is an 8 of hearts. So it's queen of hearts, jack of diamonds, 3 of clubs, 8 of hearts. And it checks around to us. We'll start with Chris Jones. What do you want to do here on this turn card?
So this is okay. This card is sort of interesting. I do not believe for a second this made a straight for Rigby, but it could have made a straight for the small blind. And that's a little bit alarming. But otherwise, this 8, I mean, it brings in the backdoor hearts as well, but it doesn't really change the board unless somebody had 9-10. And I think the only player capable of having 9-10 here is a small blind. Because I think Rigby raises 9-10, check raises or here. So on the flop. So I think I'm betting again. I think I don't want to see the small blind raise me. If they do, I think I'm dead. But if they don't, I think I'm ahead a lot here. And I want to get some more value. So I'm probably betting small again.
Ben.
Can you give me a size?
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking about. That's literally what I was just contemplating in my head. I was like, this stack to pot ratio is kind of getting close here. Like, so there's 90K in the pot. How much do you have in your stack at this point, Rob?
So at this point,
just over
we
100,
have
right?
Like 100,
106K.
Yeah. Okay.
So 26 and a half bigs, and there's 98 in the middle.
Yeah, I like a pretty small bet here, targeting a worse queen and a jack. So I'm going quarter pot, pretty small.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm just wondering if we ever
just to clear, I'm
we ever just jam here.
The
just
small blind jams, I'm folding, and if Rigby jams, I'm calling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I like that too. I was just like, do we just shove here and just win the pot and or like up against Rigby? The small blind hasn't shown a ton of strength. They could even have a worse queen, maybe. I don't know. I think I'm on the small bet in game, but in my head I'm like, gosh, I wish I had the stones for a shove because there's so much money in there, and especially with the heart on the turn. But
yeah, what sucks about the small bet? There's so many draws out there, and like going small just like incentivizes them in there. Yeah. I really don't like this spot with the stack to pot ratio where we're at multi-way, 9 and 10 potentially easily peeling something like Jack 10 obviously is going to stick around. Like, do we want to get value from it? And like, do we want to put in 30K and then when a 10 comes off, just reluctantly fold the river? I mean, we definitely can, but I think you have to psych yourself up to be ready for like that situation. what if the heart comes out and then they jam into us, and like how are we going to handle that spot? So my way of saying I don't really have an answer, because I would have much rather checked the previous street, get checked to here, and then like throw out a 30K bet and let people react to that instead. But given we're in this situation, I think I'm going to agree with a lot of the things. I don't want to check here just because of how many draws are out there. I'd initially think of going small. I would probably hate the fact that it's going to incentivize a lot of hands to call, and I would probably size up a little bit more than what Chris was saying. I might go like 35, 40K. I know it's really weird with the stack to pot ratio and like our stack of being 106 and putting in 40K and then having to decide what to do after that. But I think I'd rather just kind of start to put the pressure on now.
So I love a check here with this exact matrix. And the reason I love a check here is because I don't expect any of these draws to fold. I don't think we can use a sizing that is going to get any of these draws to fold realistically with where the SPR is. And when I'm in a situation where I can't get the draws to fold and I'm up against at least one very capable player where I know I'm going to need to make some river calls, I'd rather pot control here and have more straightforward decisions on river than inflate the pot and then likely have to make decisions for my tournament life. So to me, just because of these exact player types, I lean check here, fully intending to call a lot of bets from Rigby on the river, and face some ugly rivers. Where if we lead here, now we're kind of in a weird, we're almost like betting in committing our stack, regardless of river, because once you put that many chips in, and then the river comes, and then he decides to just pop it. The SPR is so small, like I don't know how you can fold like at that point. So I want to at least have those options available to me. Now, if I was up against two more passive players that aren't capable, I'm betting here all day and twice on Sunday, because I'm just going to bet they're going to call, the river is going to come, they're just going to auto check river because they have very, very few leads, and then we can just check our showdown value or go for value if we improve. But when we have these really capable players, I just don't know how much that bet really accomplishes.
So question then, because if you're checking, you got to have your plan for the river. What rivers are you going to fold to if your opponent's bet out on? Like, I know small blind and Rigby are going to be like two different things, but like if a 10 comes out, are you folding to a bet?
Yeah, so small blind, it's going to be purely based on sizing, right? So, you know, if a 4-liner comes out and the small blind goes really, really small, I'm probably going to puke call. But if the small, like, you know, if something completes and the small blind just like bets like value-y big, I'm just going to give them credit for a big hand and make a hero fold. With Rigby specifically, where I started taking my thought process at this point were, what were the hands that he could hit the river with that wouldn't bet the flop? So to Chris's point, at this point, I was taking all of the straight draws out of his range, because I would expect him to bet 9-8, 10-9, king 10, ace 10, ace king. Like, I expected a lot of those hands to just pop it. I'm sure there's some flush draws that he could have that could get there, so probably hearts might be some of the scariest. But again, I still think some of those heart hands would bet the flop. So we kind of have to like, I don't know that we can draw a clear line in the sand there. But there's also just plenty of bricks. Like, we don't, even if you just look at all the scary outs, it's like 10 to 15% of the rivers are going to hit. Most of the rivers are just going to be blanks, and we're going to have pretty easy decisions.
Okay. Yeah, probably a question for the audience to think about, because I know you're going to hit us with a river and then we're going to discuss it. So might as well.
I'm going to hit you with the river. And when this river hit, let me tell you, I thought this was the nut river card. The river was the 8 of diamonds. So it goes runner, 8s, and the flush draw bricks out. And when that card hit, I'm like, I'm good. I'm just good here. Small blind checks, and now I know I'm good because the small blind would bet anything here that beats us at this point after we've checked around.
Yeah.
And then Rigby shoves for 129K into a 98K pot with the small blind having him covered. And I went, fuck. Because this is the spot I was prepared for. And just a little transparency side note, heading into this series, I had told myself I needed to get better at taking these spots and not always edge passing. Because it's very easy in these really soft fields to just always default to, I don't need to take the spot. I don't need to take the spot. I don't need to take the spot. But the problem with that is you get a reputation and then like the better players start to run you over. So I had already made up my mind before this series I was going to be better at taking these spots. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh my God, what value does he have here? Like, does he really have an 8 here ever? It's extremely unlikely. He never has queens full. He never has jacks full. Like, I think I can take all of the full houses out of his range. So literally, we're only losing to 9-10. And when I check back turn and the small blind checks river, how capped are both of us, right? We're kind of like screaming that we're both capped. This is like the absolute most amazing spot in the world for him to turn a metric ton of hands into a bluff. So, as played, is anybody folding here?
I mean, it's gross. The 8, I mean, like, if anybody can have an 8, he can have an 8. Like, he can have probably, you know, just some random backdoor heart 8s that, well, actually, the
No.
8 is a heart, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, never mind. He can't have that. But he can have some 8s. He could probably have 10-8. He could probably have 9-8. Probably not every gutter is going to check raise the flop. So, but I still can't fold to this guy. Just can't. I mean, we're too strong. We're a little bit under repped. As you said, we're kind of capped, but this is near the top of that cap, right? Of what we can have here. I can't fold this to this player.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I like, it would throw me off. I know we've talked about last week, and we say it a lot of times, but it's like, hey, when there's that over bet, it's way easier to go for value than it is for bluffs for a lot of, you know, recreational players. So if you're playing live, you see an over bet or a huge bet like this, like lean value. But the thing is, it's Rigby, so cool, we've got that. 2, you really got to think about like what hands do they actually have here. I think we have differing opinions of what range they could show up here, but if we just talk pure value, I don't think.
Tell us what you think. Go ahead and give us.
Please, I think you said something to the extent earlier that like you don't think they have stuff like Ace 10 because you think they would have bet Ace 10 initially on the flop. I think they have a lot of stuff that should check on the flop here. And then their range is a little bit stronger from that aspect. I don't know Rigby though, so I'm just thinking generically like, hey, some sort of like aggressive player, and it's like I think I still have to give them credit for having some straight draws, having some other things that he isn't just going to instinctively just continuation bet everything on this flop, because Queen Jack 3 or whatever it was, like. I think you could check Jack 10 there pretty easily. I'm, I guess, scared the most of Jack 8, to be completely honest, because Jack 8 would make a lot of sense for a call. Then when the 8 comes on the turn, it's like, cool, send it over to the button, let them do the betting for me. And then now on the river, they've got extreme value and they can go for it. To me, Jack 8 makes the most sense. Okay. It's just a matter of like, what else do I think could potentially be in my opponent's range that they could find random bluffs. And I think weighting that and trying to like think through those things and just think King Queen's probably good. We probably have capped our range a little bit too much and gives him the green light to overbet bluff. And if they're capable, that's probably enough excuse for me here.
What say you, Mr. Benjamin?
I like all that. I mean, who's to say he's not just firing it in here with like a queen 10? Just like, oh, I got top pair. Like, I've just been checking and calling, and now, right? Like, now I'll just fire it in. So, yeah, I actually, the way that this played out, I really like the check on the turn if he's going to do this on the river, like as an overplay potentially with a worse queen maybe, or with a jack even. Like, you never know. So yeah, I like to check more on the turn now. That's what I would say after seeing this.
Yeah, I don't know how correct the check is on the turn, and it's definitely more motivated by the perceived edge I have in the field, and also just the value of the min points than it is probably like tactically or in a vacuum correct.
Did you think that you might induce this on when you check the turn?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, I thought this was a possibility, and when the 8 hit, I was like, this is the perfect bluff card. Like, runner paired board cards are fantastic bluff cards. Because it's generally speaking less likely that our opponents are going to have those. But in a world where everybody's more negative than positive, especially with bad players or casual players, they see the board go runner, and they go, oh, he got there, right? You just seem to generate more fold equity. So I was like, man, this is the perfect, like, he can turn any straight draws he does have. I don't think he has the open enders, but maybe to Taylor's point, he has ace 10, maybe he has ace king. Maybe he has like, I don't know that 9-7 ever gets there. Like, it wouldn't call the flop. So probably just ace king, ace 10. But he could turn hands like jack 10 and jack 9 into a bluff. Those are hands that definitely could turn the bluff. Maybe he is crazy enough to turn queen 10 into a weird value bluff. I'm not really sure where it is on the spectrum.
Who knows?
Right? Who knows, right? So, like, yeah, I was prepared to make this call on the turn. I wasn't happy about it. I wasn't like, oh, yay, I was hoping for this spot. But I felt like this was as clean of a river card as probably possible. I mean, I suppose like a 2 or something would be better. So, yeah, I tanked. I went through it. In my mind, I could come up with way more bluffs than value hands. I didn't really give him credit for Nate. I do think that Taylor's point about Jack 8 is viable. I don't know that he's got a lot of Jack 8 because I don't think I guess he's capable of opening Jack 8 offsuit there. An average player probably wouldn't open Jack 8 from the hijack, but yeah, I guess he could. I guess him specifically he could. I didn't know that at the time. I know that now. But there's still only 8 combos of Jack 8, so it's not a massive amount. There's 16 combos of 10-9, but there's a world of combos of hands that we can come up with that are bluffs. So I'm just like, all right, well, I can come up with a 3-to-1, 4-to-1 ratio of bluffs to value hands. Plus, I also think there's a non-zero chance that he could just turn like pocket 4s into a bluff here. Just be like, y'all just don't have anything, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe hands like 4-5 suited with backdoors that have backdoors to the 3 with the straight and also backdoors of flush. I don't know. So we make the call, and he flips over 10-9 suited. So he did check the flop with 10-9, and he did get there. And I was just like, are you serious? Like, the GTO catch the crazy aggressive player in a bluff spot, and he just has the effective nuts. So we sat there stunned for about 2 minutes as we went to break, because it was the last hand before break, which should have been my first clue to fold, right? You never bluff catch on the last hand before break. But,
which suit did he have? Do you remember?
It wasn't hearts.
Okay, it wasn't hearts.
But I do not remember if it was diamonds or clubs.
Okay.
So that hand plays out, and then the very next day, we're in the $400 deep stack. And this will be a valuable lesson for all of us, because this is something that happens to me, especially more now that I'm in the live realm and I'm not playing 15 to 20 tables in a session online, which is that these sessions kind of roll together and the thought processes roll together. So we're in a similar spot here. We're big blind 3,000. This is day one of the deep stack. It's a 2-day event. The top 12% bag and go to day 2 and are automatically in the money. We're about 21 left at this point, and I think 10 bag. It folds to the cutoff, who has 60 big blinds, and the cutoff is a local cash game reg. Now, I'm not sure how it works for you guys in Minneapolis, but having traveled now for a little bit here, generally you run into, 5 to 7 cash game regs at every stop. And these are players who are beating the local cash game. They don't necessarily play a lot of tournaments. They're not very good at the shorter stack side of things, but they make a lot of their money by bluffing and running people over and being sticky in spots where maybe tournament players wouldn't be sticky. And they seem to kind of all play similar, like across the country. Is that what it's like in Minneapolis and in Canada? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you guys know the type. So he opens to 2.5 bigs in the cutoff, off of 60. We're in the big blinds with, I want to say 46 bigs. So he's got us covered by 14. And we have 7-8 of clubs. So he opens at 2.5. We have 7-8 of clubs. We could talk about 3-betting here some percentage of the time, but just for the sake of time and where we're at, I'm just going to say that I decided to call. I think both options are fine. So the pot is 6.5 bigs. And the flop comes 7 of spades, 3 of diamonds, 2 of spades. First question for the three of you, and anybody can chime in. Does anybody have a leading range here?
I probably should, but I don't.
I've been playing with it a little bit. Maybe it's easier online than it is live, but I've been playing with these kind of flops, especially versus late position opens, just leading on some of these boards, even if I completely miss it, just because it's so good for the big blind. So yeah, I'm still kind of working it in a little bit, but it's just how the types of boards that you do it on. But this one here specifically is like really good, I think.
I'd prefer it to be rainbow, but yeah, this is the kind of board, if I'm going to do it, this is the kind of board I'd do it on.
I disagree slightly. I don't like the fact that there's a 2 and a 3 on there. Like if we're saying it's like 4, 5, 8, 4, 5, 9, something like that, that's like still a little bit disconnected. I think it's considerably better than 7, 3 deuce, just because 3s and deuces make up a small part of our range.
Yeah, it's a good
so
point.
I think it's actually not the best flop to lead on. I get the point though that it does really miss their range and hits ours a little bit more, but the fact that it's a 3 and a 2, I think it limits it.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really valid point. I think our range doesn't benefit a ton from leading here. However, I think our exact hand does. So if we're up against an opponent that,
that's the best interruption.
Who knew Taylor could make such adorable kids? I'm stunned. Because our exact hand wants to deny equity here, and I don't expect our opponent to be the kind of person that figures out that we're only doing this with top pair. Also, we're never going to see this guy again. So I don't mind kind of going a little exploitative here and just going for a lead to kind of equity deny and avoid going check and just giving all of his overs a free roll. And also just having a chance to kind of just take this down right here a decent percentage of the time. So I went with my normal lead size here in a spot like this, which is 1.5 big blinds, about quarter pot. He calls. So now there's 9.5 big blinds in the pot. The turn is the 5 of diamonds. So 7 of spades, 3 of diamonds, 2 of spades, 5 of diamonds. We're double suited. Now things get fun. What does everybody want to do here as played?
Gosh, this is still a really good card, isn't it? Do we think after we've led here? I think it is. I think I can put another bet in. And we do improve a little bit, I think, don't we? Do we now have a gut shot?
Yes.
We do not have a gut shot.
Oh, we do not?
We have 7-8 of clubs. So
7-8 of clubs. Right. Okay. Yeah, I think it's still pretty good.
But what sizing?
I was waiting.
Hello. Tell me.
I
sizing?
I have a good answer.
Can I?
Go ahead.
I like an overbet.
Yeah.
I like to overbet pot here.
Oh.
How many big blinds do we have behind?
I would like to go like 11 or 12 big blinds here.
Ooh, spicy.
So let me ask you a question, Chris,
Mm-hmm.
because I was expecting to get this answer from one of the three of you. What is GTO trying to? Because if you put this in a solver and you node lock this and fire it up, you're going to see a large percentage. It probably wouldn't be 100%, but it'd probably be like 75% of the time we're going to go over pot bet here, especially on these double suited boards. What is GTO trying to accomplish when it uses this sizing?
It is putting an enormous amount of pressure on their two naked over cards. Even their flush draws are in a lot of jail here because they have one card to come and you're putting so much pressure on them. And they don't, it's not like the flop where they can sort of wait for two cards to come. So unless they have an overpair, you are putting massive amounts of pressure on pretty much the entirety of the rest of their range. Or a set, I guess, set or an overpair.
I think you put a massive amount of pressure on set overpairs too.
Like, yeah, I mean, you're putting
imagine
those are, but those are like what we fear, because those are ones that probably in GTO land are probably going to stick around.
Sure.
But everything else is just in pain and agony. And we have a really vulnerable hand, but it's also got a lot of strength on this board, but our range is also way stronger than theirs is right now. So that's why I like it.
I think it's got added value because it's a cash game reg as well. Whereas a cash game guy is going to see like EV of certain hands and be like, oh, I've got queen jack suited, got two overs and a flush draw. I'll have the equity here. I'll be in position after this. Like I can call with this type of hand. I'm really like mentally struggling. Like what are we gonna do on river runouts if we do get called here? And that's like on any size that we pick. Like all of a sudden we get to a river, pick the river. How are you gonna approach it? Like this is part of why like I prefer the simpler route of it was 7-3 deuce on the flop, and I'm gonna just check call, and like I'm gonna feel really good about my hand, but I'm not gonna take a lead route, because once I take this lead route, now I'm really struggling of like how do my ranges want to get constructed, because I fear checking versus betting makes my range construction kind of poor.
Ben, anything you want to add to that?
Well, I was just trying to think about genuinely think about what sizing I would use in game if I was playing. Like I play mostly online, so I was just thinking like online what I would do. But I don't know if I can. I like pot, but just essentially the same thing, I guess. After I kind of thought about it a little bit more. How many chips do we have? How are we looking on big blinds? Like how deep are we here? Are we right at the start?
So on this turn, let's see, we had 46. We posted Andy in big blinds. So that was 44. We called another 1.5 was 42.5.
It's like
so
4 to 1, right?
Bigs back.
Yeah, it's like 4 to 1 SPR.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like pot then.
So here's where I'm gonna push you guys into a weird realm again. I think a lot of what you said, Chris, as far as what GTO is trying to accomplish is spot on. I think there's one more thing I would add, which is that using a really large sizing, especially at this SPR, basically prevents our opponent from having check raises that can't commit. So basically they have no check raise folds, which condenses and forces their check raise range to be extremely polarized. That being said, in most of the games we play, online and live, two things are a little off from GTO land. The first is it's really hard to equity deny draws. because players hate folding to draws. I don't know about this exact player, but there's definitely cash game players who they have a flush draw and overs. They're just never folding here, even if you go over pot. So that makes that a little tricky. The other thing is they don't check raise anywhere near, or sorry, not check raise. They don't raise in position anywhere near wide enough here. And as we decrease bet sizing in any GTO situation, the more you decrease bet sizing, the larger our opponent's raise frequency is supposed to get.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you face opponents, and this is especially true online, those of you that play a lot online, one of the biggest things you could do to improve your win rate online is start to decrease your bet sizes and pay attention to who adjusts. And when you find out that 99% of the world doesn't adjust, you will get to take advantage of so many poker players at all buy-in levels by taking certain situations where betting really small to your advantage is to your advantage, and they will not expand their raising range. So while a pot size or over pot size is super theory perfect, honestly, in this spot. In this spot on ACR, I would, like in an ACR 3355, like that would be my default baseline for this type of situation. In these weaker fields and against kind of more random players on softer sites or in these live tournaments, I love going small here because I just don't think I can equity deny the flush draws no matter what size I use. And I'm basically using it as a blocker bet. I don't expect to get raised here super often, especially since the 5 is largely a brick for my opponent. I think if my opponent does have hands like over pairs, they don't want to raise on a board like this. So I get to keep the pot small and kind of reevaluate rivers. So I think we can get away from the GTO line if we think that we have no fold equity to flush draws, no matter what sizing we use. And if we think we're not going to get raised here at a very high frequency. So I went 3 bigs, third pot. Opponent calls. There's 15.5 bigs in the pot now, and the river is the 9 of hearts. Now, when this river hits, I think this card is the brickiest brick of all bricks, other than maybe like a deuce or a 3. Could he have a hand like I guess he could have 9-8 of spades or ace-9 of spades that had like a front door flush draw, but I think those hands are probably going to raise me on the flop when I lead quarter pot a decent amount of the time. And I just think it's such a small part of my opponent's range that I'm not super worried about the 9. So as played here, again, I know most of you would not have gotten to this point in the tree, but if you were forced to take my seat at this point, there's 15.5 bigs in the pot. We have 33 bigs behind, so the SPR is just over 2. What are you doing here?
So just to
Because I made a
clarify,
colossal mistake.
Suit wise, the heart is not one of the
brick.
2 tones out there. It's
Yeah,
a total
7 of spades, 3 of diamonds, 2 of spades, 5 of diamonds, 9 of hearts.
9 of hearts. Okay. So I don't think I said it on the last street. Like, I'm not opposed to a small bet. It's part of what I was thinking. I don't even think I really gave an answer, so apologies for that. I wouldn't have gone over bet. I liked hearing the discussion there. I thought it might work versus a cash game person, but I don't think I'd ever take the overbet line actually playing live. Here on this river, I think you're totally right. I think it is a huge brick, and now we're going to probably get the most money by letting our opponents bluff into us. And I'm trying to think of what's the thing that I can do to incentivize them to bluff the most. And although number 2 on the list is to check, I think number 1 is to bet very small. And part of me wants to bet 3 big blinds again, or maybe even 2.5 or something like that. I want to bet something that they're going to feel incredibly sheepish if they fold to. So they're going to feel like they must raise on the river. So that's what I'm doing.
All right. That's intriguing. Chris Jones, what are your thoughts?
This is why I like the big bet on the turn, because like I feel like now I don't agree that they can't have 9s. I think they have a ton of their suited 9s. that get here. So the ones that have been chasing their flush draw, and they can have a lot of them, right? They can have 10-9, they can have Jack-9. I think they can have a lot of nines here in those suits that they've been chasing. And I don't love at this point. I want to just bluff catch with this hand. If I took the route on the turn, I think I can represent more, and I might do something really aggressive. But as it stands, I don't think I can, and I think I probably just want to check and call a reasonable size bet, and if it gets massive, I'm probably folding.
Yeah, I think I'm in the check
Are you
call.
jamming?
Am I jamming? Be jamming. Am I jamming? Not here. Yeah, I was just trying to think about some of the stuff that Taylor and Chris were talking about, but it feels like if I bet small here, they might still make a side call with a worse hand, where if we check and let them bluff, we can just call. It's kind of where I'm at. Like, if they do have a 9 and we call, then we lose. It's kind of like, okay, you know what I mean? That way, doesn't feel as bad as betting again and then either getting raised or just getting snap called by better. And then we don't get a ton of like, it's hard to find worse hands that are gonna call us. I think that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think that's probably the theory and somewhat like slight exploit. Like maybe if like you think of like a dartboard, like the theory is like the innermost circle, and then like the first ring around it would be kind of like the light exploit line is just like check call there. I was thinking more along the lines of what Taylor was thinking, which I don't say very often, but maybe I need to a little bit more often because
especially after the last episode.
Yeah, right. I was thinking a small bet would induce, and so I was like, all right, I'm going to go small, but here's where I miscalculated. I thought going small was going to induce like a 10 to 15 big blind raise that I would call, and if I'm right, I win a nice pot, and if I lose, I still have 17 bigs and I'm good. I go 3.5 bigs, and he jams. And that was 100% my fault for just assuming I knew like what his raise size was going to look like. And now I hate life. Now, to be fair, there's a non-zero chance that if we check here, he still jams. There's no guarantee that like if we check, like if he's jamming into a 3.5, I don't know why he wouldn't jam into a check. But I was mentally prepared to call 10 to 15 bigs. I was not mentally prepared to call all in. And to bring this conversation full circle and talk about some of the practical aspects of poker and downswings and ups and downs, all this is 24 hours after I called off for my tournament life in a big spot for a massive pot against Rigby and was wrong. So in this spot for your tournament life, if you're correct here, you're going to have 256K in chips at big blind 3K, which is good for 13, almost 13 starting stacks. A massive, massive stack on day one. If you're wrong, you're out of the tournament.
Can you tell me how quick they jammed and any other like sort of like information around that?
Nice.
It was within 5 seconds.
I'm folding. Like you got to think through bluffs. If you're jamming pretty quick here, I'm gonna give it some value. They can definitely have 9s, 5s, 3s, deuces, stuff like that, and kind of
ace 4.
Like there's things that are out there. Like I wanted this line because I wanted to induce flush draws to bluff here. But if you're going to bluff, you typically don't take this size. We talked about this last week in terms of like how people approach it. And it's just like, yeah, it's way easier to just put all your chips in the middle when you've got value and overbet pot. This quickness, this size, I'm just going to believe and move on. Had they gone, like you said, 10 bigs, 15 bigs, I probably would have just snap called. And if they had value, they got me. If they had a bluff, cool, I found it. But now I'm worried about a live player actually being able to find bluffs to this size this quick.
Yeah,
Hey, Jam, I know that all this. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Well, this is like a almost 40 big blind shove, isn't it? It's a massive.
It's 33 effective.
33
into
effective.
After my 3.5 bigs, there's 19 in the pot, so it's like 1.8x pot.
Okay, all right. It's not as big as I thought. Still pretty big.
I know, be jamming. This is making you just want to get right out of the online streets and just
Oh,
cruise over
man.
to your local live casino
Let me
and
tell you.
hop in your one-day tournament.
It doesn't. It sounds like a lot like online. Like I still feel like I'd see this online a ton and just still be in the same spot and just be like sighing and being like, okay, I guess there's just. I think there's better spots. I think we just have better spots that we can take, especially with this stack size. And it's just like if he bluffs, he bluffs. You know, sometimes you fold to a bluff. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I just feel like we have just infinitely better spots that we're gonna run into.
Yeah, and isn't our range just like
points.
so capped here, right? Like, that's a part of me that's like, can they
hold that thought? Hold that thought, because
yeah.
I want to hit on that, but we haven't gotten a clear answer out of Chris yet, so I want to make sure.
I'm folding.
Okay, all right. So everybody called on the first hand, and you were all wrong with me. Everybody folded this hand. I think there's one question that I thought of 5 minutes after this happened that I didn't ask, that I think we haven't asked yet here in this discussion. And that question is this: what is our opponent trying to get value from? And this ties into what Taylor just said. We're very, very capped. Now, you can make the argument, and this is definitely true of some players, that they're just not on that level. They get a big hand, and they're like, whee! They just shovel chips in, and they do a little ha-ha dance, and they don't even care that they're giving away information. But I think most cash game regs at least have some level of thinking. What if he has a value hand? Let's just give him ace-4. What is he trying to get us to call with this run out, with our sizing on the river when he over pot jams?
Random 7. I mean, he's hoping that we hero call with a random 7, I guess.
Maybe 2 pairs.
It's really ambitious.
Yeah.
It's really ambitious. And I wish I'd asked myself that question in the moment. I really wish I could like go to some like multiverse universe where the Rigby hand didn't happen, and in a vacuum I could see like how I would have thought about this spot, because it 100% impacted my decision making. Like I was in this spot and I'm like, am I really going to do this 2 days in a row? You know, like, and just again to give the backstory, like we started this Player of the Year chase. I started in July with a 15K bankroll, which isn't enough to even dream of approaching this. And I've been very fortunate that things have gone well and I've grown my bankroll, and now I'm first in the leaderboard and I have enough bankroll to really potentially win it. But at this point, like the first stop I lost money on, the second stop I had an 11K score, made money on, but you know, one time wonder, did I just run good? Like we didn't know yet. Like this was kind of like the third stop of, okay, let's see if we're really can do this, if we can have some consistency. And I brick this first tournament trying to be a hero, and now I'm on tournament 2 going, oh crap. So I did fold. I had a lot of the similar thoughts you guys in the moment. I didn't ask myself that question. And anyone want to guess what our opponent turned over? Because he showed his hands.
Ooh.
Let's see.
I mean, there's a lot of random things that could definitely be in
I know. That's what I was thinking. I would say two of the diamonds or the spades, at least.
He had an offsuit hand.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, we never really bet that big. Like they can literally have a lot of different hands, right?
Overbet the turn.
Yeah, in this exact situation, I think overbet the turn would have back. He flipped over ace king offsuit. So peeled one with ace high, turned a gutter with overs, peeled again, and then turned his hand into a bluff. And we bubbled anyway. We busted 2 from the back. So taking the safe route didn't even reward us in any way. So some takeaways here. It's interesting. I think one, I think it's interesting that, you know, if we really look at the first Rigby hand, I think we have to not be results oriented and just look at it like, hey, we made the decision to check on the turn, to pot control, and do some bluff catching against a player that's extremely capable of not just bluffing, but bluffing at way too high of a frequency. We just ran into it. And what I probably should have done that night was really compartmentalize that and really make the decision that night. Hey, good decision, bad result. Just like when you get aces in against 4s and they hit a 4, we don't stop playing aces. We're going to stick to this plan. We're going to keep playing this way. When we're in spots, we feel confident we're up against capable people and we think they have a lot of bluffs and not a lot of value, we're going to go with it. I don't think I did that. I maybe did it for like 2 minutes, but I didn't do it enough to like walk into the next tournament with a game plan. It was just like, it happened. It sucked. I'm going to move on. And I didn't really think about being in this spot 2 times in a row. And then that question of really like when people go huge, we really do have to ask ourselves, what are they trying to get value from? Right? With Rigby, we can have some top pairs there. And that is a good spot to bluff catch. And he knew that. And he even said it. He was like, yeah, like when he flipped it, I was like, oh, seriously, you've got 10-9 here? He's like, yeah, I know. It's such a good overbet because I have so many bricks here that you just think it's a brick all the time. He knew.
He knows zone
That's his credit. Yeah. So he knew it was the perfect spot to overbet. So I think kind of thinking through like how realistic it is for our opponent to want to get value in that spot kind of helps dictate those types of things. You don't want to do it against the players that don't think on that level. So that's something you have to kind of judgment call. But I think I didn't compartmentalize enough and stay on the same game plan. And I think it impacted my play. Now, the last thing I'll say to this, and then I'll give you guys some closing thoughts and we'll get out of here. You make a lot more money hero folding than you do hero calling in poker. And especially for those of you guys that play at lower stakes, if you're going to make an error, make it on the side of overfolding. Because players, your average player in these player pools doesn't bluff at high enough of a frequency. And chances are you're gambling by bluff catching. Especially if you're sitting there trying to count combos of bluffs when half these players don't know what a proper bluff combo looks like, right? So if you're sitting there counting combinations like, oh, well, they have 70% bluffs here and 30% value. Well, all your players, like, he's looking at you and he's like, this guy's never calling my bet. Like they're not necessarily factoring these things in. So I think if you're going to make a mistake, this is the side you want to err on. But yeah, I missed out on a shot at a 13x starting stack and probably a really healthy bag for day 2. Because I don't think I put the day before out of my mind and I didn't ask myself all the right questions. So some closing thoughts from all of you.
Yeah, to be fair, how much did you lose on that hand?
6, 8, 9.5 bigs.
9.5 bigs.
So about a quarter of our stack.
Yeah. How much did you lose on the hero calling gone wrong? Your whole stack. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Our tournament
35 bigs with your tournament life. So yeah, totally right. Like it feels like the same level of mistake when you like talk through this, but one of them was a significantly less mistake. To put it in perspective, like say you're, playing a hand and someone is just going all in every single time pre-flop for 60 bigs, and you've got, ace 9 offsuit. And you're like, man, they're doing this a lot. should I be calling here? And like, am I in this right? Like, is this good? And you fold and they flip over 7 deuce and they're like, aha, I got you. Like, it's really not that big of a mistake, right? Like, not all mistakes are made even as we kind of go through this. So it's like, you have to pick and choose your spots as you're going through this and understand that you getting bluffed and you folding isn't the end of like your tournament. So we have to be all right with that. If we're going to bluff and our opponents are going to fold to that, like we have to be all right with that happening to us. We also have to be all right that we're going to go for big value bets in certain spots and our opponents are not going to call. And we don't change our perspective of, oh, we went big for a value bet. We can't go big in the future because we must get called. We have to get that win by getting our opponent to call. You know, sometimes you make the right choice, but your opponent also makes the right choice, and you just have to live with it. Here, I think we kind of made the right choice of leading out, but when they go an overbet jam, I think the right choice is to fold. But some of the times it's going to be to a bluff, and we have to be all right with it. My last closing part that I'll have here is I don't lead this flop, and I don't get into this spot.
Totally fair. And he is the most recent trophy winner here at Rec Poker. So it carries some weight. Ben, some final thoughts from you.
Yeah, I like all that. I mean, I said it, like sometimes you just get bluffed and we just have to move on and try not to let it affect. Like I really like relate to you when you said about, you know, carrying that forward to the next day, because I feel like even in online sessions, if I go to the next day and I know I made a mistake, if you don't compartmentalize it, it can really mess with your head. So I've definitely relate to you there. I was just going to say that even really strong hands by the river can become bluff catchers, as I found out online recently, that like even sets and really good looking hands can kind of shrivel up, especially when they just donk jam rivers for like you say, like 45 big blinds into like into like 15 on the river. And it's like you're there with like a really strong hand and you're like, geez, you know, but then they never bluff. So that's it.
And apologies, Ben. I meant I should have done this earlier. Where can people catch you on stream? Just give yourself a shameless plug here.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, so every Sunday I stream on my own Twitch channel, BJamin96. You can catch me over there. There's usually you can catch it on the calendar over on the Rec Poker website, but with the new stuff coming down the tubes, I got some plans that I'm brewing up, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, every Sunday I stream kind of like sporadic times, so you might catch me at like 8 in the morning or you might catch me at like 12 in the afternoon. So, but yeah, just keep an eye on, smash the follow, and yeah, you'll see me.
Very cool. Chris Jones.
I don't have much to add. I'm still sort of stunned that Rigby had 10-9 though. That's my takeaway. Like I can't believe it. Like it doesn't really make sense from what I've seen from him over. I've watched like hours of him play in the main event, and I would have sworn that he would have raised that every time on the flop. So I don't know. Sometimes you run into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very true. A couple comments from the chat here. I'll chime in on. First off, kudos to Taylor Maas on his hacking skills, because I don't know that anybody has ever in the history of chat typed "I agree with Taylor" in chat unless it was Taylor's alt. So Lorianne Persinger, if you're out there, you might want to check your computer.
Thought I deleted that. Thought I deleted that from the chat, but that must have just snuck through. Yeah. Oops.
And then Ginger asking, when's your next stop? So I leave on Monday for Tulsa, Oklahoma. And this is, man, you want to talk about crazy. So super quick, I'm going to be gone 4 of the next 5 weeks. So we go to Tulsa. Tulsa gets done Sunday night. I have to get from Tulsa to Oxon Hill, Maryland, basically MGM National Harbor. It's an 18-hour drive. In time for the Monday night Saturday and then Tuesday. That goes through to the following Monday. Then I'm driving home. I'll be home for 6 days, and then it's back down to Tunica for a week, and then all the way over to Council Bluffs, Iowa. Then I get 6 weeks off, and I actually was just on a call with Tana, who runs Run Good, last week, and I can't give too many spoilers away, but apparently there's not many weeks off between the third week of January and the third week of May. It's going to be a busy spring. But hopefully a spring with a lot of rings and a lot of player points and a lot of victories. So Ginger says Maryland's close. I may join you. That would be fantastic. We haven't seen each other, I think, since playing table games with KB. So it'd be definitely a great time to catch up. Well, on behalf of our official sponsors, Running Aces, again, check them out at runningaces.com. We appreciate everything they do for us. Make sure you guys keep an eye out for the Rec Poker Weekend information coming up soon. So you can come up there in January and tap the tables. I hope it's early in January, because if it's the third week of January, I'm not going to be able to make it. But keep your eyes out for that. On behalf of Jim, who is crushing it in Montreal, my good friends here north of the 41 latitude, Chris Jones, Ben B. Jammin, Enslow, Taylor Maas, my name is Rob Gardner. We will see you guys soon.